Welcome to the only daily podcast focusing on compliance news of the day. Each morning, start your day with a cup of coffee and Tom Fox, the voice of compliance, to hear about 4 of the top compliance, corruption, or leadership stories you will need to start your day. The Daily Compliance News is a production of the Compliance Podcast Network.
March 3, 2020, the Devil's Advocate Edition. Today we have 4 stories from the Financial Times. We begin with an op-ed piece that the U.S.'s energy dominance is not based on reality. It's an article by John Dizzard, and he says that the pillars of Trump's re-election strategy, particularly the assertion that the U.S. Has energy dominance of the world, is based on a false narrative. And he talked about coronavirus and what it has done to the U.S. LNG exports. None of those exports are moving now, and because of the impact of the coronavirus, Asian LNG prices have collapsed much faster than U.S. prices. This means it no longer pays to chill American natural gas loaded onto LNG tankers and ship it across the Pacific to regasify it. So U.S. LNG exports are ex-growth. So far from feeling dominant, U.S. exploration and production companies are feeling the spike heel of bondholders' demand for capital spending discipline grind into the once brave face they presented to Wall Street, and they are tied up by contractual commitments to fill pipelines and processing plants, overlaid, of course, by their lenders' austerity. So the author ends by saying, I think the Trump campaign and its allies can forget about bigger pledges from grateful E&P friends. Next up, Deutsche Bank continues to have challenges as its compliance failings raise red flags in the United Kingdom. The UK financial regulator has criticized Deutsche Bank for its failure to improve AML laundering and compliance controls, and warned this week it could jeopardize the German lender's access to the United Kingdom after Brexit. Bank of England supervisors have told Deutsche Bank executives that they expect monthly updates instead of quarterly meetings. This obviously shows the concerns that have been raised over the past 4 years with Deutsche Bank have not been ameliorated. Deutsche Bank does not seem to be able to get its house in orders or its affairs in orders around these red flags for continued issues of money laundering. Next up, will the coronavirus mean lasting changes in the office? Andrew Hill and Emma Jacobs say that business leaders are thinking flexibly to protect their staff and supply chains. So although this is just yet another crisis, it has new elements, and it may bring lasting changes to how companies manage their workers and how those people work. Obviously, the template for short-term action is standard across companies: reconsideration of business travel, including total bans and self-quarantine for people arriving from high-risk zones, encouragement of remote working, regular communication for public health advices. More innovative approaches are to operating split teams to prevent intra-company contamination. Also, of course, is the factor of trust. Do employees trust what their companies are telling them and how they may or may not be ready to take care of them? And finally, our lead story from the Devil's Advocate, or on the Devil's Advocate, rather. This comes from the always good On Management column by Andrew Hill, and he talks about why companies should have a Devil's Advocate, or someone to come in and really talk about policy, strategy, and a way forward from a different perspective. This is something that the Jesuits do, that the Catholic Church has done, and many companies have done, and now Volkswagen is doing, is bringing in a green or a pro-climate person to talk to them about their new initiatives around becoming a more eco-friendly company. The Daily Compliance News is a production of the Compliance Podcast Network and a proud member of C-Suite Radio. Thanks so much for listening.